This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy. New Masters Academy is the #1 online art school, and we have a special 4th of July offer for you. You'll be getting the first 3 months half off. So normally it's $49 a month. You'll be getting it for $25 a month. So thank you, New Masters.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for animation.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today we are going to talk about 5 things we wish we knew before we got into animation.
I wanted to talk about this because I, had a lot of complaints early on about what I felt like should have been told to me before, getting a job, not settling down, but it feels like it when you're tied to LA in order to work in animation.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really had a problem with was how art school in particular, doesn't really make you ready for the workplace. What you are learning in school is not necessarily what you're actually doing and is applied when you start working. So for me, and you, I guess, it depends on how you feel about that, but at Art Center isn't really known to train you for animation. It's more of like a generalist kind of thing.
And the history of the school is more of illustration and advertising back in the golden age of illustration, they say.
Yes, but I think when I applied, I had no idea because at the time entertainment arts and entertainment design was coming up. So I just thought these really prestigious brand name art schools would be teaching me everything that I needed to know. I thought that was the point of college, that you are taught and then you're getting ready to be ushered into the real world.
I don't understand. We were taught a lot of stuff. We were taught how to draw, how to paint, how to compose.
Yeah.
What do you think's missing? So
there's a lot about working in a corporation that is less to do with your academic art skills and more to do with your, I don't want to say social skills, but and in a way academic art skill, because so for example, I became a storyboard artist, right? I learned how to storyboard. I learned how to tell the difference between different types of shots, like close-up, medium, wides, and all that very basic stuff. But even so, Art Center does a good job at making you feel like you're prepared for the workplace, and I think they do actually.
I think they prepare you for one half of the aspect of working at work, which is the work part.
Yeah. And for freelancing, for example. I feel like the nature of the way our classes were set up, it's the instructor gives you an assignment, a prompt, whatever, and then you have the week, 2 weeks, whatever length of time to do it as best as you can to your ability, and then you turn it in and you get critiqued and graded on it.
And what you described was basically a relationship between a freelancer and an employer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what our school really did teach us how to do the best.
Yeah. And in a way, I feel like it actually is more suited towards the more editorial freelance life too, because like I said, sometimes it's not, it would be different if it was just the teacher gives you homework and you go home and you do the homework. It's not really like that. It feels like, especially the more illustration type classes, they treated it like if you were a freelancer at an agency or whatever. So they would simulate the real world working environment as best as they could. So they would give you actual prompts that they might have received in their own assignments and stuff like that, and it felt like there was a goal. They gave you some kind of goal, you need to in order to make me happy, you need to fill out these requirements. It had less to do with did you draw the best in the class, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so sometimes a prompt is like, like do this, an illustration for this op-ed in
yeah,
the
that's
New
what I'm
Yorker
about to say. We've had those assignments where we're either supposed to find a news article that we, really enjoy or like, or a writer, a journalist we really like, and then we kind of design their, an illustration for their thing. Yeah. And I think that's such a great assignment.
Yeah, because if you do it well, it might not necessarily be the best artistic piece in the class, but you might have been the one that did the assignment the best. You know what I mean? Like, you fulfilled the thematic requirements of it, and so you, in the real working world, you probably would be the one they hire again for the next freelance job instead of someone else, because you gave the client what they wanted.
Right.
So for, I think, our more illustration heavy classes and art center too, like, my friends who have no idea anything about entertainment, anything about Hollywood, anything about the art world, they do not care about what we do.
Oh yeah.
Nor are they interested in it.
And it's we love that.
Yeah.
It's like a little escape.
Yeah. But I had a friend who would say, like, oh, so you go to trade school. Oh. And I'm like, no, because I get a bachelor's degree and I am required to take, like, general education class, like English, math, whatever classes, academic classes, in order to get that bachelor's degree. I'm not, like, technically you are wrong. But when I was explaining to her, like, Art Center is known for employing teachers that are currently working in the field so that they know what is relevant to teach you, because they're not going to teach you something that was done like decades ago or whatever, because they know it's irrelevant. And Art Center had a very they stuck to this rule of the hiring rule of theirs for a really long time. But I think for entertainment, we didn't really have that as much. A lot of the teachers we had for the entertainment side of things, they hadn't really worked in a while. Would you agree?
I agree that in entertainment design, the more video gamey side of our school, there were more people in that track that were at least like still working.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the teachers in our school were great, but they haven't really been in it for a while.
Yeah. And I think that showed, because the illustrator side, they were working all the time. So they knew exactly what kind of prompts.
And their teachers were teachers who were still showing up in publications and art galleries.
To this day. Yeah. And for us, what I noticed, so I became a storyboard artist, but so I learned all like the beginner technical stuff of what a storyboarding artist does. Like, I learned all the shot language, and I learned how to storyboard just, it's sequential image. But I never was asked to do the more minute, tedious things that is
which is most of the job.
Yeah,
It's interesting that when we were at school, and like the people still in school, and Art Center's curriculum is fairly similar to a lot of other places, I'm sure. When you do the work, you do the funnest, sexiest parts of the job, which come in the show I'm on, like every, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes, 2 or 3 or 4 is like a crazy one where we're trying to like really flex, but most of the time it's just like very normal work.
Right.
It's less to do with paintings, like really sexy paintings, and just like, especially in TV animation, what's the space? Let's design the space, because we all need to know the story. People need to know, obviously the background people need to know what is this area, and you're often doing orthos or you're doing rough compositions, which is like, which a lot of the times you can't really put in your portfolio, because you're literally just like, these aren't sexy drawings,
But it actually,
like for example, like I had to make a guide for the overseas people, and like, this is TV. I know in school they're gonna, like, you want to choose the best typography, and you want to do and you want to have like the best layout, graphic design and stuff, but like, this is just, I'm relaying style information to another group of people. So and I need that to be as like fast as and as clear as possible. So I don't have time to like design it. I literally just wrote it out on my Cintiq, like, this is how I do this, And then in the second step, I add this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very clear and quick.
Yeah.
But like in school, you know, and it's very important to learn graphic design. It's very important to learn about kerning and typography and all that kind of stuff. But the reality of the job is a little bit more visceral, a little bit more like you kind of had to have a gun to your head and you gotta design now and quick.
And like especially like for visual development type work, which I had someone ask me, what does that even mean once, like sarcastically? And because especially in TV animation, all the jobs are separated. So you're like, if you're a background painter, you literally do not design backgrounds, you just paint them. And then if you are a designer, you shouldn't have background paintings in your portfolio because all you do is design it. And but when you're learning, everything's like combined into this overall umbrella term called viz dev. So like when people make a viz dev portfolio, it looks a certain way. All you have to do is Google it and you'll understand what I'm saying. But if you're like, for example, if you were hiring a background designer,
if I were in a position of hiring, it's cool and it tells me the hats that this artist can wear. But like, if I were to hire and I'm looking through all of your websites, I would just look for who has done or who's like thing is like filled with backgrounds, of different styles, and does this person know perspective and all of that stuff, the obvious stuff. But like, unfortunately, if I were really looking for a BG designer, I'm gonna like skip all of your character designs. I'm gonna skip all of your background paintings
or your props or whatever.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where like we tell art students all the time that like, you know, in art school you're gonna have a period where you're gonna try all these hats. You know, you're not gonna know what you like until you try it, and then the hat you keep wearing is basically what position you are. Like, if you're drawn to backgrounds, if you're drawn to character design, and you just find yourself doing it a lot. And then you have trouble of like, oh, what am I? Like, what should I be? Should I be a prop designer? You are whatever you do the most, I think. Yeah. And that always tells, at least me, what I need to be doing.
Yeah. But universally, no matter what student or aspiring artist, maybe they didn't even go to art school or whatever, whenever they show us their portfolios and it looks like, you know, every other viz dev portfolio that you see out there, and it's just wrong. Like, and I was wondering, like, why did we all do it like that? And part of it is our teachers required us to.
The more cynical side of me says it's all advertising for the schools.
And also, like, no one's giving you the answers. And when you look towards like art of books, for example, that's what it kind of looks like. It looks like you're supposed to be able to do all the things.
Right. But the art books are put together by marketers.
Yeah, they're marketing tools.
Yeah, they're, you know, all those, I mean, beautiful art, but at the same time, it's probably like the 1%.
Yeah, of the work that was actually done to make the movie happen. Yeah. So when you see like these beautiful viz dev paintings and background paintings and blue sky paintings, they're just like, you do not do that 99.9% of the time you're working. And because people think like...
And then people are thinking, well, what do? You do textures. You do orthos.
Yeah.
Which, like, in itself, like, I actually find a lot of beauty and a lot of, like, there's a lot of neat things going on to, like, really nail a great ortho and the space, or to make a texture really sing. But people are expecting you to be like Paul Felix or something.
Yeah. Or like, we even want to, like, people who hire even want to see that.
Yeah.
When, like you said, even though it's not the sexiest thing to have like a portfolio full of orthos, if you did, that probably would guarantee you a higher chance of getting hired.
Yeah, if I were on the other end, I'd be looking for that. I'd be looking for the unsexy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a little obvious, you know, to see the character lineup and to see the grand paintings, and it's just like, I want to see what you're actually going to be doing the most.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I thought about all of this, all of like our very, very expensive, ridiculously expensive education, and why wasn't that told to us, and how could I have taken agency to, done it on my own? Like, I have a certain amount of responsibility to find out these things. I can't just rely at all on the school, is what I was thinking. And I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe I could have, I don't know, interned more or whatever. But then I really thought about it. And the internship that I had was really hands-on. That's different. But when you're hired as an intern at Disney, DreamWorks, these bigger corporate companies, even as like a quote-unquote art intern, you're basically just a glorified secretary. And because you're not getting paid, is how it was explained to me, because they're not paying you, you're getting like school credit, you are actually not allowed to do any kind of artwork.
Right.
So you literally, even if you did intern at Disney and DreamWorks, you won't necessarily understand what it is to do the job. You just kind of...
You're privy to it.
Yeah,
you know?
you're in the space,
yeah.
but it's not like you're over my... I never had someone over my shoulder looking at what it is that...
If you really wanted to make it your business, I guess you could like ask and all that stuff, but I've never encountered any of the interns doing that.
Every intern I've seen just grabs coffee, makes copies, is bored to death.
Data entry, lots of that.
Yeah. And so it's more like you become more of like a production assistant in a way when you're an intern. And so I was like, okay, so if I had gone back in time and I had been chosen to intern at Disney, because I did apply, I was never lucky enough to be chosen. It's not like I would have learned that even if I was an intern. So I was like, okay, so if I couldn't like go and get real world actual work experience at a studio until I, became someone who worked in the industry, maybe I could have like asked someone. Maybe I could have like befriended people who were actually working and like asked them. But the thing is, I did. There were plenty of people that eventually, like later on in school, that eventually started working that I knew, or I had talked to because of things like CTN, like industry trade shows, where you get to meet these working professionals and ask them all the questions you could possibly want, get portfolio reviews, whatever. So I did go to these things, and I asked all the questions I asked. And I'm sure all of you who go to these things ask, and you're just confused because you're going to find that no one actually tells you how it is, like it is. Which is why probably when
they over-exaggerate it.
Yeah. They glorify it in a way. You know what I mean?
Like glorifying sitting in an office.
Yeah. And I always... Like, I wanted to know the not so pretty sides of it. I wanted to know, like, if you had gripes with, like, working, like, what they were.
Let me know. And it's a lot of it too is like, if you're a student, you want to know if this is something worth investing in. Yeah. And it's no wonder there's so many people going into animation, because everybody's trying to make it look like it's the most amazing fucking thing in the world. Yeah.
When, like, you think it's obvious, when people say like, oh, it's just a job. But is it obvious when, like, I would go to these things and ask all the people what your job is like, and what do I have to do in order to get in, and am I doing the right thing to get in, like at my portfolio, whatever. And no one ever said it's just a job. Everyone's always like, yeah, it's amazing. My job is the craziest, the most amazing thing.
And it's almost like, oh, are you telling them that, or are you telling yourself that?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, so I did go out of my way to try to find out what the job is actually like, and still no one told me. So I was like, okay, my school is not telling me. I could have never interned at any of these places and truly understood what the mundane, like, unsexy parts of the jobs are, because you're not really doing the job. So if you can't even, and you're not really like privy to it, you're just kind of there. It's not like you're learning it from, you don't have like a mentor or whatever, which I think might be a little bit different for, I think like Pixar, for example, might be one of the only studios that I know of who does actually like mentor you and make you do stuff. And then I asked working people, what is it like? And they still, so how in the world was I supposed to know, like, all what it is to actually be working in the job? And I realized it has nothing to do with like going to the source of it, and everything to do with just make a short film. I think one of the things that I wish I had done a lot more before getting into animation is either making an animated short or like more short films, like live action, like in a way like a YouTuber, but you know, with narrative and like stories and that kind of thing, because that's the only way you understand what a good note is, for example, versus a bad note. What is necessary, what is unnecessary, and how to what everyone's jobs are truly, and the benefit of having a team and all that stuff. And all of those things are applicable to working.
Yeah, I think you want to do that as soon as possible. Since you were a storyboard artist, you did this all the time. But I, like I mentioned in a previous podcast, I was in this language of the moving image class, which is a class where you get to make 2 shorts basically in the class. And I think it's really important because there are artists who are probably better off as illustrators and freelancers, because it's more insular and you get to just be more responsible for yourself. You don't have to like worry about teamwork or whatever if like being in a collaborative setting isn't right for you. But it'll very quickly help you realize, are you good for this team-based creativity endeavor, or are you more like just you're more personal about your art journey, I guess. I don't know.
But also, like, the whole, like, is this necessary or is it unnecessary? Like, a lot of the times, especially as, like, both as a board artist and a revisionist, you are revising a lot, I think. And, like, there have been times when I've gotten really strange, unnecessary notes where it felt more like busy work than, or to make the boards look pretty kind of work, which is just completely a waste of time, in my opinion. Like, if you're gonna pay me to do something that no one is going to see at the end of the day because it's going to be animated and all that stuff, it's just ridiculous. And a waste of time and budget. And when you are doing your own little short film, you understand what those things are. Because if you are,
you know the value of time and money, because like your short is on the line. Your own time, at the very least, if you're doing it for almost no budget, with you have to understand that, like, these are precious things that we have, precious resources, time and money.
And if you're working for someone on their personal short film or whatever, you understand why they're giving you that note, as mundane. Like, you're not going to be doing anything crazy and fancy, but it needs to be done to get the job done, for whatever. And you understand most of the time you're not doing anything amazingly fun. you're doing the nitty gritty stuff. And I think that's all those things, from the beginning to end of, like, doing a little short film, or just, like, even call it a YouTube video, whatever. It's like making a little movie makes it translates better to what it is to be working in animation in Hollywood, than, I don't know, just doing Vista painting.
You have to be in a pipeline.
Otherwise, you will never really be prepared, as I guess I would like to call it. Because we were prepared in a way. Like, we understood how to do all the, like, technical aspects of the job, like how to draw, how to paint. That's basically the two things, and how to use Photoshop programs and whatever. That's all you really need. But you do kind of need all the other stuff if animation is what you wanted to do.
So I've been listening to Eric Clapton's autobiography again on Audible, and I think it's a fantastic listen. It's narrated by Bill Nighy, and for those of you who live under a rock, Eric Clapton is one of the most legendary guitar players of all time. Back there we have the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers album, one of his very first endeavors after the Yardbirds. So I think that's his best album. It's fantastic. And the autobiography is a fantastic listen. So listen to Eric Clapton's autobiography. It's excellent.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to that, go to audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe Podcast to get your free Audible trial. You will get 1 free audiobook, so you can pick that one up, or 2 free Audible original audiobooks, and the link will be down below, so check it out. It is free at no extra cost to you, so audibletrial.com/the Honey and Absinthe Podcast.
Is there anything else that you wish you knew? So that's one thing.
So another was, I wish I started making money with my art specifically, because it doesn't count if you're just making money, because then any kind of part-time job counts. But making money with your art as soon as humanly possible. And what I mean by this is, I wish I had started doing conventions as early as even high school.
Yeah.
Because like, what does it mean to make money with your art? And I have like a whole a video about this, I think. But I mean, there's different things. You can get a full-time job, freelance, or start a business, basically sell your art and do things on your own. And you think, when you hear that, especially as a young artist, that you can't do that until you are out of school. That's at least my mentality. That like, oh, I really only knew of 2 of them, freelancing and get a job at a company. And in my head, freelance was harder than getting a job at a company, which it was actually the complete reverse. Making money on my own is easier than freelance. Getting freelance was easier than getting a job at a company. Because I think it's really important for people to not have tunnel vision when
Explain, what's tunnel? Like, what do you mean by tunnel vision?
Where you are so desperate to get in the industry, to get a job in animation, that that's all you want, because that's the dream. I think if
at all costs, and you do everything you can, you talk to every single person, you have sleepless nights and all these things.
All your actions are chosen based on that end goal. Instead of just opening your mind up to other things and other experiences that are really important in order for you maybe to be happy,
right.
Then
I think the best part about selling your art, it doesn't even matter to your friends, sell your art or paint on your friend's shoes or whatever it is, even if you're in high school. I think it's really important because it builds confidence.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I notice all the time when I look at YouTube, when I look at Instagram, when I look at TikTok. A lot of these artists don't have a lot of confidence. Yeah. And I think to be able to sell your art and have somebody buy it because they love what it is or love what you did to it, that's a really great feeling. And we were lucky enough before we got hired to be able to do like 4 or 5 conventions. So many conventions before we got into the animation industry. And even though in a way we still had tunnel vision, this thing that we were doing made us so happy. And lo and behold, it actually, like, we didn't know until we actually broke in that it makes us happier doing conventions than actually even working, obtaining the dream that we've always wanted to get, because we get to have these like intimate connections with people, and people actually like our stuff instead of, I work for this big studio.
Any kind of experience where you're making money with your art, you're right, it gives you confidence, and it shows you that there are avenues outside of animation that are viable.
Yeah, and it makes it so that like you don't. I feel like the chase of working in animation, especially with a lot of the young people, it's almost like I need to work for this big studio to legitimize my talents.
Yeah.
Instead of going like, let me be the best, whatever it is I can be, and I'll make my money, and I'll see if I can like, make a living out of that. It's almost like they're trying, like everyone's trying to like, get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's trying to look legit in front of their friends and family. They don't want to be like a hippie artist.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how are we going to make money? But I think the skill to be able to make money with your talents, if you have that, you have something very special, because it doesn't matter like where your paycheck comes from. Yeah. Deep down, if like, you didn't work for this studio or you didn't work for this employer or whatever, you can make the ends meet on your own, which is so powerful.
Yeah. And it's interesting that we went the opposite, at least I went the opposite direction, where I know what it's like to, I guess, get my feelings validated, my talent validated, I guess, by being hired at these big studios or whatever.
It is sort of like validating, and then we talk about like imposter syndrome all the time, because we never feel deserved.
Yeah, especially when you're young, and especially when you're in school around other talented people. And after having done that, it's like being able to check something off of a
bucket list.
Yeah. And you now know what that's like to have your abilities or talent, whatever, validated. So then now that I can go off and go do my own thing, I don't have this weird like need for other people to view me as important or legit or whatever. Because
I know, I like, because we know.
Yeah.
We set foot in these places. We say hello to the same people all the time.
And I've noticed that like people who have gone the other route, where like they became like an influencer, for example, or they started their business from doing artist alleys, which is crazy, a crazy accomplishment that anyone should be very proud of. And they have this like yearning that will never, of what if I had,
the grass is greener,
gotten hired at the studio that I was at or whatever. And so they'll look at people like us differently, because like, oh, you've actually made it and I haven't.
Meanwhile, we're looking at them and going, no, you guys made it.
Yeah, like you guys figured out a way to make a living without having to like sell your soul and do the mundane, like we said, truly mundane, unsexy, not fun things like 90% of the time at work. Instead, you're doing exactly what you want every single day, which is kind of neat. But it's sad to see like other people not realize that. Yeah.
So sell your art. Come on, give it a shot. Put it online, especially these days.
Mm-hmm. Now
I don't know. I think people are buying art online.
Yeah.
We can definitively say that.
Yeah.
Like people are actually spending their money online, especially with all the conventions that aren't happening. Everyone just kind of wants their fandom stuff or the art that they love. They want it now.
Yeah, they want a little bit of that like feeling of going to a convention come to them at home, I guess. Yeah. And I think this next one is like more for you, but for me too. Where there's a certain point between, I guess, the desperation of wanting to get hired and school, I guess, where you think you're good enough. I think, for lack of a better word, you are confident in your skills and you're just trying to work on your portfolio or whatever in order to get hired. And then you stop thinking about doing things like going to workshops, like figure drawing workshops, painting workshops, whatever it is.
Yeah, especially when you go to a school where they, rightfully so, make you focus on foundations in the beginning for a couple years. After that period, you think that like, oh, I'm above that. Yeah. And like, and it's not your fault that you think that way, because when as you're doing foundations, you're looking in the halls and you're seeing these amazing paintings, these amazing drawings and character designs, and you're like, I want to do that. But and then when you finally reach those stages of like doing those things and taking those classes, you think like, oh, you know, fundamentals was so passe. It was so like so first or second term.
Like I don't need to do that anymore. I did it. Like it's my fundamentals. I'm never gonna lose it.
That was that's honestly, if I were to go back in time, I think that would be the thing I'd try to like probably punch myself in the face and go, you go to workshop every week, once a week. You're gonna thank me later. Yeah,
because the minute you have that thought of I think I'm good enough is the minute you start plateauing.
You're screwed.
You're not gonna learn anymore. You're not gonna grow anymore, and you're gonna start to like behind or just like it's not fun when you're not getting better, not seeing yourself get better.
Any sentiment that's like I'm good is the nail in the coffin for every artist.
Yeah,
I think.
And I feel like I've honestly felt it like multiple times in my life, because you have ebbs and flows in like your education and your learning as an artist. I think for me, I got to a certain point in school, and then I felt like, oh, I've learned all the technical skills that I need. I need to get better at my like ideas, and I need to like just make a lot. But that was completely not true because I wasn't very good yet. I knew I was good enough to get hired, but even so, good enough to get hired is actually a pretty low bar. Because like I said, you're not doing half of the crazy stuff you're seeing in those art of books. There are a lot of people, I guess myself included, that you really don't have to be that good in order to get hired. So something I do wish. I think when I felt that way, it did stunt my growth for a really long time. I struggled to improve and get better because I felt that way. And if I had stayed humble, I don't think that would have happened, because we would have continued to go to workshops and always tried to figure out what it is that I could get better at, instead of just focusing on like, oh, I should just make more storyboards or whatever. And my skill level never really improved for a really long time.
Yeah, I'll never forget when Marcella went to our class and basically gave a presentation about what he does. If you don't know, Marcelo Vignali, legend, god tier, goat, the greatest.
I think he's at Disney TV now, running the show.
Good, better. But yeah, I remember he came to our class and he was talking about all this stuff and talking about how like on his lunch breaks he would go to the workshops and draw, and he said that going to the workshop is sort of like batting practice. Mm-hmm. It's something that you should never really stop doing. It's something that keeps you a well-oiled machine. And that's something I want to share with you guys. I think it's really important. Like it's really tough to do these days, but like to be able to just take some time to draw figures is
to study.
To study.
I guess the bigger point is like to keep your ego in check, your humbleness and your eagerness to learn. I think is the main thing. It's like the main thing that stopped my growth was having reached a certain pinnacle, whether to get hired to whatever, is always when you kind of lose yourself a little bit and you stop caring and stop trying to learn and stop improving.
That's why everybody in like, let's say music always is more interested in what the sophomore album is going to be, because the first one's always like, oh, you've basically been working on this album for as long as you've been playing music together, right? Like these are your songs that you came up with, and now what are you going to do now? Did you use up all your songs, and did you let fame and fortune sort of get to you and make you not work as hard or have that gusto to make whatever it is you want to make? It's that kind of stuff.
So having animation not be the goal and just becoming better be the goal, I think should have been where my priorities were at.
Mine too. I think so.
Most artists, I think, who have dreams of working in animation, your goal is not to work in animation. Please don't let it be to just get a job in animation.
And the goals for us have changed so many times. Like for me, like I think I mentioned in a previous podcast, I wanted to just be able to draw and make money with art. And then once I got that, I was like, okay, I got this, but the things that I'm drawing aren't really the things I really want to draw. So I want to work in animation. So I got this job in animation. And the goals keep changing. It's like now I'm just dreaming of this life where I get to be free to make whatever art I want and whatever it is, to be as creative as possible, whether it's make a movie with you or paint a painting or make a short or a comic or whatever it is. That's the dream right now. And I feel like especially when I was young, I kept thinking like, no, the dream is to like work for the biggest studio possible, and to be the greatest this and that. And especially when you're young, you have all that like verve and energy and stuff. And then when you kind of as you get a little bit older, you start to value freedom and being able to have the liberty to draw and paint and say and tell the stories that you want to tell. And it becomes less about like who you work for, and like especially us right now, how do we get to making art, making money with our art, and living happy lives? That's the dream for us.
And the fourth thing that kind of leads me into the fourth thing that I wish I had done more, because I did do this one, you and I both do, was to travel to third world countries and live there, see what it is to live there for a little while. And I did this like in high school, between high school and college, and like you said, that actually helped me in the long term understand that how free we really are, how like I am so grateful to be able to do what I'm doing now. Even not even like I could have easily been born like in another state even and not had the ease of which to apply to these big studio jobs or even get into animation. It would have been harder for me. But even so, it's like experiencing those third world countries, it makes me realize like I need to take advantage of all the freedoms that I do have. And if I'm unhappy, chasing after this thing that is animation, just getting a job in animation, which it is just a corporate job at the end of the day. So just reframe your mind to understand like my dream is to be a corporate
your dream
person.
Your dream is to sit there in a desk with a gun to your head and draw stuff. So it helped me realize that like, oh, my dream really isn't that. It's I'm living the dream by living here, by being able to like chase after my happiness or whatever. And it shouldn't just be to sit as a corporate minion at a desk. I just wish that I had done it more, because I had done it so long ago that I needed a reminder of that, I think. And I think if you are just constantly traveling, or at least at the very least have that one experience, because I don't think I would be the same kind of person I am today if I hadn't. Yeah, me too.
What was your experience with like travel and how, like, especially to like a third world country?
Oh yeah, I've never been anywhere outside of the country except for the Philippines, and it was a eye-opening experience. That like the best part is that like the they're having the time of their lives. They don't know anything other than where they live, and they just live happily. But then coming from America, it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah. You're in poverty that I've never seen before.
That like I've never seen. Even in Los Angeles, like it's like it takes it to a whole nother level. And it really made me feel like, wow, I'm lucky. And it's not like, it's really interesting how there are a lot of like Filipinos in the animation industry. And I feel like a lot of them have the same sentiment of like, hey guys, I'm just happy to be here. You know what I mean? Hey guys, I just want to like make good work and go home and be happy, because it's like, because that's, to me, I don't know, like that's a pretty great thing to just be able to work here. Like and visiting that place and saying hello to my family and things like that. It's like it's pretty, like you said, it's pretty amazing that we get to do this. And there's tons of studios over there in the Philippines, but I'm sure every one of them are dying to like just like everybody, just like the people in Middle America or the East Coast, they want to come here to the great mecca of entertainment and work. You know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that like for you, you experiencing that makes you really grateful for to be able to pursue animation. And then for me, it's like the opposite. It's like having experienced that I should not, because I have this freedom, I shouldn't be doing something that
I need to maximize my freedom.
Yeah.
I need to like be my own person. I need to be like I need to make everything all by myself first, and I'm just like, hey guys, how's it going?
The fact that you will have me,
Yeah.
that is a freedom unto itself.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Both are fine.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think the point is like to have that experience, period.
Yeah. Because it really sets, it frames your mind in a really great way of like, this is, as an American, I live in this place that I could like do all these amazing things.
Yeah. And I think the final thing that I wish I did before getting into animation was to take my time. I don't think I needed to have gotten into animation as quickly as I did, as I wanted to for everything to happen, because I mean, especially this kind of more creative life, things are not so, like, time isn't so kind of strict compared to when you're in high school. There's a certain expectation of how things need to happen. Like, you graduate and you immediately go off to college. I know it's different in other countries, like some people have a gap year and stuff like that, but for us, like if gap years are strange, you're like a weirdo.
Yeah, it's frowned upon.
Yeah,
in
you're a failure.
You're a bum.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Which like isn't necessarily true. Like I feel like I should, like, I know we're gonna talk about, but I feel like I should have probably taken, like, not taken a year off, but at least taken community college to at least like, expel all the partying and all the craziness I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And at the same time get GEs instead of just like killing myself over all of that stuff in art center. Like
same. Like I wish I didn't have to like write papers while I was trying to do my portfolio. Like it would have been really helpful to just do one or the other at a time instead of trying to juggle two very separate things. And so like after high school, you get funneled straight into college if you go to college, and most people do, because again, people will frown on you if you don't. At least that's the feeling when you're in school, when you're that young. You think like, oh, everyone's going to college. If I go to community college, or if I go to a worser college, or if I don't go to college at all, people will think I'm a waste of space, never going to amount to anything.
Your friends and family are going to judge me.
Yeah. And then the expectation after college is to immediately start working.
You're like, the way you've set things up in your mind is like, you're never going to have a break.
Ever. Yeah. And then it was even worse for me and a lot of people who go to a school like Art Center, where our semesters are counted like terms. So usually there's like fall semester, winter break, and then spring semester, and then summer. But then Art Center has 3 semesters in a year, because you don't have to take summer off for summer break. You can continue on.
You actually have to. The only track that doesn't is entertainment design. They get to have a summer.
Oh, really? That's right.
Yeah, everybody else has to work through summer.
Yeah. You don't have to. You can technically tell school you're going to take a break.
Yeah, but you can only take 2 breaks when we were...
Oh, really?
We were at school. At least
no idea.
So for me, I only took 2 breaks because I thought those were... What I heard was if we took more than 2 breaks, we have to reapply.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
I don't know what it is now, but I would have taken more breaks if I could.
Yeah. So because of that, a lot of people who have taken their GEs, their general education classes, at a community college, or they have a previous degree before somewhere else doing something else, they actually can graduate in less than 4 years. And even if you hadn't done that, you actually can still graduate in less than 4 years. And because of that, there's this huge pressure to do so, to not graduate in 4 years, to cut it to like 3.5 or whatever it is.
Sometimes 2. I've seen
people
do it for less. Yeah.
And that's just not healthy. that's not healthy for us at that age. Like when you graduate high school, you're 17 or 18, and then you're in your early 20s by the time you graduate, and like there's so much you're cramming in.
Right.
All of that. And like I wish I had taken my time not to like relax, actually, to do more, to explore more, and to work more. Like it would have given us all the opportunities that we talked about in like this whole entire list thing, where I could have taken the summer to go to conventions as an artist alley person and make money.
Focus on yourself more. You could go to workshops, paint with people, really study, you know, because you want to, not because you have to. It's very different when, you know, you're trying to fulfill an assignment for school and you're just kind of cramming everything. Yeah. And it's different from those times, especially like, especially when we were really shaping up, when we first got hired, to really want to learn and learn all the things, even review things that you already know because you want to. Yeah.
And like, I remember, I forgot which teacher had said this, but they were saying like, when you're in school, you're learning. When you're outside of school, and you need to take time outside of school, you are making sure it sticks. And I really like that idea of like, if I'm taking a break, I'm not just taking a break, which you should do also, but you should be continuing to study what you've learned, because to expect that our semesters were like 14 weeks long.
Yeah, to expect that your brain's going to retain all of that information, especially if you've taken more than 3 studio classes. It's like, man.
It's impossible.
I mean, the best your brain does, and it's what I've noticed, is that it kind of holds on to all the stuff that you thought was really, really important. Yeah. But there are lots of times, especially with you right now designing type, where like you hated that stuff. Yeah. And now you're telling me like, oh, I want to get into type. And I'm like, you should absolutely not get into type. If you like complain all the time about how hard it is for you to stay patient enough to finish a finished illustration for you to design type from scratch. Yeah. Every single nook and cranny and the kerning and designing every single taper or whatever.
I used to hate illustrative type, or just hand done type in general, honestly. I am not OCD enough to really become a graphic designer. But illustrative type, hand drawn type, I've started to get really into. I don't know why, because I used to hate it. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. I think now that you're designing a new sweater right now, in this very moment. It's really awesome. I'm so excited to wear it. Everybody gets really excited. But you're designing like the type, that goes on top of the illustration, and it looks really cool. And I could tell you're really invested in it because you care so much. Yeah. It sucks. Like, I remember I hated typography, expressive type, as they call it, too, in the beginning, because I thought, I was like, this is so dumb. And lots of kids in my class would explain, like, this is so dumb, I don't want to. And then, like, halfway through the class, I started noticing my drawings started to get better. Yeah. And it's, like, simply because your eyes are, like, type teaches you how to have sharp eyes. Yeah. I think there's this great video I think you can find on YouTube about Scott Robertson, who's, like, known for drawing like cars and spaceships and all these amazing sci-fi stuff, and he's like flipping through his like school book where it's like the perfect K with a perfect serif K, and L and like all these letters, and then perfect, like absolutely perfect. And he talked about how like I think in the video, you should watch it, but he briefly explains how like it developed a sensitivity to certain things, and like that's really important, Yeah. But it's not something that you find really sexy right off the bat.
Yeah. You don't really understand it unless for some reason you're really OCD and you really like type. Yeah. But yeah, I wish I had taken more time in school. And I've noticed that people who do, they tend to be like miles ahead of any of us. Yeah. When they for one, usually they're older, so they most likely had a previous degree that they ended up leaving that career for in order to come to Art Center. That's the typical demographic. I don't think that's the case now, but that used to be what it was. So people were in school, in our school, at an older age, like in their late 20s at least. And they, because of that, they can actually finish their second degree, this art degree, much faster, and they don't have to take any of the stupid bullshit classes that we had to take, like English class at art school. And so they were able to, they would actually take the same length of time as us to get through school, like 4 years, but they would be taking breaks all the time. And I noticed, like, they, not only did they come to the school at a higher level, I think, because they're older, mentally and technically, I noticed that they were able to take advantage of what they were learning more by taking it slower and easier, not trying to do too much all at once. And I think it would have allowed me to explore more in terms of like what kind of jobs I would have been able to like weasel my way into, because I think it's harder when it's hard to get an animation job, a corporate job, when you're like that young. So I think I would have explored a lot of other industries for longer.
It'd be probably better for you once you finally get into the industry.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm at the point now, especially I'm working in the industry, and I'm always constantly like, I wish I had more time to learn. I wish I always dream about a time where I could take a sabbatical, like a year off, and just like fuck off and paint or draw or whatever. And it's not like there's no excuse not to do that now, except for coronavirus, civil unrest, that kind of stuff. But I mean, like I always dream of the time where I was at school and I felt like I had infinite amount of time to just learn all these things. And for everybody who's listening, who are still at school, first you should leave. Because you shouldn't be paying ungodly amounts of money for Zoom classes. First leave, and then think about really, this is especially when you're picking what you're doing by applying to college is like you're basically saying that I'm gonna take this super seriously for a period of time. And I think that period of time you're taking it super seriously, you should make that as long as you can, because you want to expose yourself to as much as you can as possible, because when you're out there working, you're not going to have time. You're not going to have time.
And it's different when you're freelancing, because if you were for example, if I was freelancing in school, but I wish I had done it more. So take your time in school.
Take your time in school. Well, we hope you like this podcast. Please leave a like over there and touch our bells and buttons.
Subscribe. Check out all our socials at honeyandabsinthe.com for our merch. Honey and Absinthe on Instagram and TikTok. And I think that's it.
That's it?
I'm having a brain fart. Did we say
merch?
Merch? Yeah.
You said merch? You said where they could follow us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, all right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.